Hello, this is Perry Farrell and his dog Spot, and you're listening to the whole podcast.
Love it. Welcome to a very special episode of The Hole. I am Rob Sprance.
And I'm Lori Levine.
And we are joined by, what an icon. We're with Perry. I'm so happy that you're joining us. Perry Farrell is with us. He has a new single that just came out called Mend, which I absolutely love. The Lollapalooza is back in gear. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to talk about. Perry, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Rob. And Larry.
So, I want to talk about Mend first. It just kind of dropped out of nowhere, and it's a collaborative effort with you, Taylor Hawkins from Foo Fighters, David Bryan from Bon Jovi, who is a great composer in his own right, worked on Diana, the play. How did it come about that you brought them all together to do this song?
Well, it was a very slow, arduous process. I basically called a couple of friends to make some tracks while the pandemic was going on. We had nothing but time on our hands, and one of our buddies was going through, during the pandemic, you're getting all these stories from people, whether it's, I'm getting to know my kids for the first time to guess what? My kids are bailing on me and I'm going to be alone in the house. So my buddy Taylor Hawkins from Foo Fighters, we're always just kind of constantly writing and showing each other our work and coming over and jamming and things like that. So one day he came over and he took with the story of that our buddy was indeed going through a bad breakup. He's an amazing musician, as his wife is as well. They're both just amazing people, but they were not united. And it got so bad that she actually took off with the children, and he was left. This guy parties really hard, and he was just getting into all kind of trouble, fights, and, literally breaking bottles over people's heads.
Wow.
So Taylor thought, let's write a song and cheer him up. Mm-hmm. So that's as simple as it was. We just got down in my living room and Taylor came over with a little groove. And then I thought, I've always wanted to work with David Bryan, who's a friend that I met one day. James was performing in New Jersey, of all places, and I look in the pit, and there's that guy from Bon Jovi, with curly hair. Yeah. He's moshing, man. It was kind of weird. And so while I was singing, then after that, I just hit him up. I said, "What are you doing here, man?" In the pit. Right. And then I said, Bon Jovi in the house, and then a couple of boos went off, and I went no, Bon Jovi, I'm down with Bon Jovi, Yeah. I invited him to come back after the show. I did this all publicly. Mm-hmm. And then he came back with his wife, and they were lovely people, and we all became friends. Etty, fell in love with his wife, and I fell in love with David. So David was he was recording a Broadway play, but it was now going to be, because of the pandemic, they were going to put it on cable. Mm-hmm. And so they were all quarantined doing this amazing play. And I just hit him up and I said, let's write some tracks, being that, everything is kind of dark for the time being. And then Elliot Easton lives out by Taylor. So we kind of call up Elliot, because we love the Cars. We call him up and say, you have time to record something. Yeah. So it was like that. It's casual.
That's awesome. So you find yourself, you're a big fan of music too, and most musicians are, but I mentioned the Hendrix poster behind the wall. So like, does it ever get old for you? Even that, like, this is someone from Bon Jovi on my record. This is a guy from the Cars on my record. Like that can't get old.
It never gets old. And so right now what I'm doing with my life is I'm just writing as much as I can because, well, the world's going to speed back up again. It's kind of already has, but I got in this great habit of writing and reading and talking to my children and my wife. Well, we're always around each other all day, but not my kids. So I picked up some really good habits through the pandemic. And one of them is to collaborate with other musicians, and they don't have to be, legacy at all. I'm working with this young group out of Birmingham, and they're called the Claws, and they sound kind of like the Who, but like a new model of the Who. So they're pretty wicked. So I get this track. I'm just calling all musicians, kind of a thing. I'm really down for writing tracks, and I get all these great signals coming back to me, like, yeah, man, let's do a track. Then I start getting tracks, over the internet, through Dropbox. It's a nice way to work these days. Is you don't have to have $1 million to make a record anymore. You can have a pretty nice home studio, and then you find that all the musicians that you want to make music with, they also have home studios. Right. So it's really making music exciting these days. I think music is about to go into a really good period. I would say a new renaissance. Is about to happen.
Yeah, and you've been very busy during the pandemic, not just in what you've mentioned, but you released your beautiful box set, and here it is, The Glitz and the Glamour. Absolutely gorgeous set of all of your work, which, in addition to that, let's talk about this for a second. Like you reunited Jane's for a virtual Lollapalooza. You've released a concert film replay that also was a kind of a documentary too.
I know that.
Yes, I'm going to tell you everything that you've done, Perry. But replay. I was shocked at how good your voice sounds. It has not changed, and I don't understand how you can stay at that level and that. It's just because it's not easy stuff to sing. At least, I guess for you, it's like breathing. But those are. It's not just there's high parts. Most of it is high, and you could tell that everybody's in great shape and everybody look good and you were having fun. I'm so glad that bands just don't announce we're breaking up and that's that anymore. Now it's just, hey, if we decide to get back together, we will. If we don't, we don't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way to do it, man. You keep your options open. It's kind of like, no, it is. It's like courtship, and I love the freedom that the internet has allowed us to record with different people if we want. And then there's always the weekend for going out and performing. And then, you call out to people to see if they're available or want to go out on tour. I've got, Kind Heaven Orchestra right now is kind of my first thought when I think of performing live. We'll be out in Chicago over that weekend for Lollapalooza, but awesome. We're not performing at Lollapalooza. We're doing some wicked after parties out there.
Yeah, I saw that. There's after shows happening everywhere.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that we conceived. Lollapalooza was, yes, you've got all these great groups that come into Chicago, but there was this thing called a radius clause. I don't know if you know what a radius clause is.
No.
Do you know what it is? So a radius clause is when they put in a musician's contract. Let's say I want to perform at Lollapalooza. So they'll sign me up, and then within the contract is a radius clause, and that it'll say that, well, you can't perform in Chicago, though, 6 months prior to Lollapalooza happening and 6 months after. So they basically want to make sure that you're not doubling down and getting all these other gigs, because it lowers your the desire for people to see you if you're playing in 9 places.
Right,
the promoter wouldn't like that.
Right.
So typically promoters will make you sign a radius clause. But what we did with Lollapalooza was something kind of novel. I told my partners, I said, don't make anybody sign radius clauses. Then, because we were getting blowback from the promoters when we would come into a city and we'd say, we want to set up Lollapalooza here. Everybody in the city gets excited because they make, I don't want to tell you how much money a city makes from a festival, but everybody's making money, man. The taxi cab drivers, the people that are, lugging your luggage up to your room, the whole town goes off. The restaurants, the hotels, right?
Yeah, even on the Lollapalooza website, it lists all the restaurants in Chicago that you can go get inexpensive food at.
Yeah. But the only people that were suffering were the promoters, the other promoters from the clubs. So they were kind of pissed off. And, I love those guys. I mean, I work with all those guys throughout. I've got a 40-year career going. So I told our team, I said, let's do this. No radio clause. And then we'll just have after parties. Then they can start making money. Yeah. So now everybody's making money.
That's great. Yeah. And I noticed this lineup. You got to do it in Chicago, man. You got to grease everybody. Yeah, but it's crazy. So you've got, just the headline. I'm not going to read everything. You've got Foo Fighters, Post Malone, Miley Cyrus, Tyler the Creator. I mean, it's just such a cool lineup, and kudos, because Miley Cyrus is becoming a rock star now in her own right. Like that last album is just a rock album. It's great. Like she has a little Stevie Nicks about her now.
Yeah. Yeah, I like her. My bassist in Jane's Addiction, Chris Chaney, is going to be performing with her.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that stinker. That's okay.
So now you get to when you did the documentary and you did the reunion, are you a nostalgic kind of person? I know you're very spiritual. You're a very positive thinking person in general. Are you nostalgic? Do you look, when you get everybody together and again, do you think, okay, what can we do next? There is a future here. Or does it, like when you get together to some of the bad things that happen, because look, bands over years are going to fight, all of these things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Like how do you react to those kind of things?
Well, that's an interesting subject. Yeah. And, I want to say in the old days, in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, bands used to look at their careers as, we are a band and we should stay together for life. And anybody who goes off and does something else is kind of a traitor, or, it used to be that you would think of your own musical career, and then you had to consider everybody in your group too. But I don't see it that way. I do consider everybody. In other words, I do think about everybody has a family now and they have a mortgage, and it would be nice to help them out. And so we do have those kinds of considerations, but I like to consider myself an artist, a musician and an artist. And as an artist, sometimes you can share a canvas and sometimes you don't. Mm-hmm. So it's nothing personal. It's just, I enjoy the process of making music, and I enjoy the process of making music with a fresh perspective. Sometimes you get a fresh perspective from somebody, and they're doing things that you have not done before or you wish you could do, and so you kind of team up for that song, or for maybe 3 songs or 5 songs. I've got this year. So far I'm writing probably in 12 different capacities. Sometimes wow. I will, try to bring in James to do a track, then Porno to do a track, kind of have an orchestra. Then I'll kind of take a back seat, and I'll think to DJ and do remixes. And that's a whole other world of music, is the digital producers. And those guys are kind of what I'm thinking of when I tell you that they do things that I don't do, in the course of a normal recording. I'm not as good as they are at electronics, as an example. So what I like to do is I look at the situation and I would say, all right, you're going to be great. You're going to be in command of the electronics, and I'm going to bring a fresh perspective from the vocals. And then that's how I would collaborate with a digital producer. So I would try to, in the house world, I think they could use some interesting, fresh perspective on the voice, because most of the producers are not vocalists. So when they get with me, we get to do something really interesting together. I just worked on a track with Sasha, the great Sasha from Sasha and Digweed. Oh, and wow, it was a song. Cool. It was a song that we had done. Flea and I had recorded a track called Milky Avenue. And then Sasha heard it and he liked it and he wanted to do a remix of it. So you see, that's how you push, you evolve the sound of music is ever evolving if you do it that way. But if you just are always tied to a band, and not to say that band isn't a great band and has done incredible work and they deserve to do more work. It's just that that is a particular sound. I'm thinking of Jane's Addiction now when I'm telling you this.
Yeah,
like Jane's is amazing, and I really look forward to writing more with them. But I think that you could also exhaust people's ears if you're only in that situation for your entire life. I think about people like, bands can get also stale. So instead of just saying I quit, you just take a vacation, right?
Creative vacation. Makes total sense. And, when you started this whole thing with them, you don't know, look, you hope that you make it and you hope that the band takes off, but you don't know. There's thousands and thousands of bands. Like when do you start to think and start to realize, hey, wow, we might have something special here? Like, what changes in your life once that you're out of that garage where you first start just working on music and all of a sudden it starts taking off? Like, does things start to change right away where you're like, whoa, I wasn't ready for this? Or did it happen gradually enough for you guys?
No, I would say the amount of time I remember tracing my steps, and I thought to myself, it took me 5 years, but that was 5 years. I had one band before that, the group Psycom, and we were an underground goth band here in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And I put my own record out. So the first band didn't blow up or anything. We were just really psychotic underground phenomenon in LA. But then that band, I thought, I want to have a bigger sound, and it should have more, it should be more about pageantry and happiness and joy and ecstasy. Because Psycom was a goth, so we were always gloomy and right on the edge of suicide, that whole thing. But that gets old, and especially when you're starting to get chicks and things are going well and the audience is starting to come in. You can't be bummed out. I always wondered how Robert Smith did it.
I know.
Like, how did you stay all those years so gloomy? But his was very romantic, gloomy, but there was some fun, happiness inside of the sound of The Cure. But for me, I didn't think that we could ever get there with my first band, so I started Jane's Addiction, and then it didn't happen overnight. Again, you're performing in clubs, so this is what I would advise any musicians and all musicians is, man, I know you see some people make it by going on to American Idol, but that I would not ever advise any musician to even consider making it by going on American Idol. The way that a great group will make it, or a great individual will make it, you gotta cut your teeth in small clubs and parties, keggers. Find out where the Friday night keggers happening and just offer to play for nothing.
Just to get you.
Yeah, you have to learn how to play off the audience. You have to learn what, if you're writing, you have to learn what excites the audience and what doesn't. And that's going to go into your sound next week. Next weekend, you'll show back up with a track that might make people dance. You never know. Yep. But that's how you got to do it. And that way you can fail and fall at a very minimal rate and get your ass back up and try again, and then you learned a trick from the last weekend. And then I'll take you, both of my sons are now musicians.
Oh, cool.
And they're going through all kind of head trips, because their friends that are awesome musicians are trying to tell them, we should have a punk band. No, we should be in a ska band. No, we should do jazz. And they come back to me, and I keep telling them, like, don't be a this or a that band. Right. You can take a little bit of jazz, and I was telling them, Porno for Pyros is jazz punk.
Yep.
And and Jane's was goth metal and dub. You never want to pigeonhole yourself, because by the time you, my son, get up there on that stage, ska is going to be 30 years old. You don't want to be in a ska band, but I dig ska. Go and listen to Selector. And the Specials. Yeah. But they're awesome. But take a little bit of that and put it in your next song. But you should always be who you are. Be yourself, because people don't want to hear you copying. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Are your sons singers?
No, they won't sing. I think they've got maybe a hang up trying to compare themselves to me. But I still tell them they better sing. They have to learn how to sing, because there is no great songs that when you have a singer that doesn't have a great singer. To me, a great singer isn't necessarily someone who has perfect pitch. I mean, Bob Dylan and Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, Neil Young, they're great singers, some of the greatest singers of all time. But and I told them what they have to do is, alongside building their musical prowess, they have to build their character. Because in our art form, people want to hear a great story from a great person. They want to hear you, that's why I always refer, like Jim Morrison. Look at Jim Morrison. Look at his life. He was great, one of the greatest singers ever. But it wasn't because he had a perfect pitch. People were into his life and his poetry and how he saw life. And they saw it like that too. Even though maybe they weren't quite as courageous as him, but they could live vicariously through his life. So I told them that that's what it takes to be a great musician. You have to be, yes, you can learn musical theory, although I don't know musical theory, but I'm learning it. I'm not against it. But I went fast and furious into lifestyle and character and trying to create a culture. It's like when you're a musician or an artist, it's like you're in a petri dish and you're trying to create a culture, and that pushes it forward. And it really does, because what we do is we reflect on life itself on a daily basis. That's why Taylor's always writing. I'm always writing, because every day there's some shit going down.
Yeah. And it's you use the culture as a kind of a reference, and I saw you guys, Jane's I'm talking about now, at the Ritz, like in the 90s, like back in the day, and that experience. Yeah, in New York. We're New Yorkers here. So that experience, you want to talk about culture. It was like the crowd was one, because first of all, back in the day, you'd wait 9 hours before the band came on. It wasn't like now, like 7:30, 8:30, especially those club shows. Like, you would wait and wait and wait. And sometimes, I don't know if you guys came on like midnight or whatever it was, but the entire crowd was experiencing everything together. It was a culture. Right. You could really see that. It was very different than most of the shows that I've been to, and it's why it always sticks in my head as one of my favorites. Because by the time you guys came out, everyone was just so into what you were bringing to the table. And I'm not a pit guy, and kudos to David Bryan over me. I thought maybe let me back up and stay out of the pit. Little did I know the entire Ritz was a pit. So I kept backing up a little bit, but the culture was just such a great way to put it, because that was an experience more than a show. It really was. And you also mentioned mixing different styles. There is no style for your music. You're just your lyrics are fantastic, and I know that's kind of the backbone to what you do. But you just, whatever the track is, and listening to the box set again, kind of, I noticed fresh remixes and things like that, but there's no one style, yet it's a cohesive unit anyway, and it's not easy to pull off. I commend you on that.
Yeah, thanks. Well, the way I can tell you how I start, that'll be very helpful to anybody who's thinking of writing a song. So, yeah, you can go all the way back to the ancient caveman days. What they did is they grunted and they hit rocks with bones, right? But it was probably some good groups back then. Right? And all they were doing is talking about what's going on. Like, I just lived. There was a T-Rex that almost bit me in the ass. Yeah, there's a T-Rex almost bit me in the ass, And that's how you do it. You have to always stay informed, keep yourself, involved in what's going on. Basically, you keep yourself involved in the culture. Then you start to report on the culture, and then you find people that are like-minded, that are amazing musicians at their instrument, and then you get together and have a party, man. And everybody starts to come in, and those are the best parties. The best parties are always centered around the best music. People ask, how did you come up with Lollapalooza and all that? I always start with, if you have great music, then you'll draw a great audience, because those people will be probably intelligent and open-minded and ready to celebrate life. And then you go from there.
Yeah, and you didn't really need to do a Lollapalooza. Like, you could have easily just been like, oh, that sounds like a cool idea, and moved on. But you dove in and made it happen, and it's become, I mean, festivals were always big in Europe, but I mean, that was really the first festival that became a constant here in the States, for sure.
And it's all different types of music. Like, I never heard of that before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were lucky on one level that when in 1991 is when it first happened, hip hop was first, really being created. Ice-T was our first choice to bring in. It was interesting because, I'm friends with Fishbone. And so I would go to concerts with them. But I didn't see any other white boys there at all. And I thought, like, it's too bad. I bet you everybody wants to come here, but they're scared. And they had a reason, because, like, I would see gangs roaming the hallways, where the popcorn stands were. I would see, like, all of a sudden, like, groups of 20 guys with their shirts off, just kind of, they call it moking. They're like moked. And they were just walking around looking for trouble. And I was glued to the wall with those guys. Like, oh man, I don't want them to see me. I just think it's going to end poorly. But then I got it in my head. Like, I bet you everybody, I'm thinking about specifically, I went to see Run DMC with those guys. And I'm thinking everybody would love to see these guys. I'm going to book acts, like I'm going to book hip hop acts for Lala. I bet you people are going to love it. And they did, but it was just, it was a lucky rhythm, because they happened to be evolving at that time. Same with dance music. So dance or house music, right around that time, it was really peaking around 1996. And so I asked the guys from Lollapalooza to include, I think we had Orbital, some other groups, but that was the first time that they had included dance music in a festival. And it worked, because really simultaneous to all of that, 1991 was when the World Wide Web opened up. Yep. It was a really interesting time of life. Michael Jordan became a champion for the first time. The World Wide Web opened up. Lollapalooza happened. Jane's Addiction, hip hop. Yeah, there was a lot going on in 1991.
Yeah,
I like to say though, by 1998, they should have stopped the 90s at 98. Because at the end it was starting to fizzle out. Do you agree? I don't know.
Yeah, there's always a tail end.
That question.
There's always a tail end when you're kind of over it, but that's what breeds new stuff. When
that
people
Y2K mess,
right?
Yeah,
right. Well, when people start getting bored of one thing, that's what breeds new things. So maybe it's a necessary evil, But I know that we don't have much time with you, Perry, and I really appreciate everything. Is it possible you can give us a quick ID before you go? Would you mind?
Okay.
Oh, hold on one second. Let me just.
So we're in a song right here, right now.
Oh, right. I don't know if I can keep up with you in that regard for sure. But
no, we'll do it together. We'll collaborate.
All right. What do you want to do?
Well, tell me what you have in mind. Let me write it down, and then I'll. Like we'll do Lennon McCartney.
Awesome. All right. Well, usually it's, hi, this is Perry Farrell, and you're watching the whole podcast.
Hello, this is Perry Farrell and his dog Spot, and you're listening to the whole podcast.
Love it.
Sound good?
Yeah, you know, I didn't know what to expect from the interview. You barking was not one of the things on the list.
No.
I feel like
Yeah, I do some good impersonations. Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Well, listen, I want everyone try to get to Lollapalooza. You can go to lollapalooza.com and get tickets right now. The lineup is fantastic, and you can also go to perryfarrell.com and get all of his information on what's coming up and his music. I strongly recommend you guys check out Mend, the box set, everything going forward. And Perry, I just want to thank you for never taking the easy way out, because we've all benefited from it, and it means a lot.
It's my pleasure, Rob and Lori. And if you guys want to come to Lala, if you want to come, we'll go offline. You can stay at my compound.
Awesome.
I've got some really good people this year coming.
really.
I think we all get along famously if you guys came out.
I love it. All right. I'm going to start barking from excitement.
There you go. And the only thing is, you have to bark. You have to bark. I'm going to take you out on stage. You have to bark. Nice.
Yes, she's got it. Well, Perry, thank you so much.
Yeah. All right,
truly an honor. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to speak with you, and I'm honored that you have me on the show. And seriously, if you want, just stay in touch with us.
Okay.
You bring your family, whoever you want to bring. Keep it under, I don't know, 5.
Yeah, that's fine.
We don't even know 5 people.
You don't even know what I mean.
Well, now with you, that's 6.
No, that's the greatest. Michael. Thank you so much. I'll definitely take you up on that.
Yeah, I'm going to reach out to Michael about it.
Yeah, you know why it came to my mind. So I was hanging out 2 nights ago. We did a benefit for CORE. Who's the fellow who runs CORE? The actor. He played Milken.
Oh, Sean Penn.
Sean Penn, yeah. So Sean Penn's got this vaccination nonprofit called CORE. I'm sure you know about it,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I heard him promoting it on Stern.
Yeah. So they're about to go into India as well as Lollapalooza. We're also about to go into India. So I invited Sean to come out to Chicago. They're also vaccinating people out in Chicago. And God, sorry, there's so many names in my head. But the guy who bought the Bozo franchise, Arquette, David Arquette.
Oh, yeah.
Are you friends with David by any chance?
No, actually, I did invite him on the show about a week ago, so that might happen very soon. But it's so funny you said that.
You should. Yeah. He's really a funny guy. But anyway, he was telling me that he bought the Bozo franchise.
the clown? It's so great.
Yeah.
That's
awesome,
cut.
right?
So
I told him, come out to Lala. I said, you know what you should do is you should do like what?
Who even knew that was up for sale?
Bozos. 20 bozos? That's so great.
I said you should have 20 bozos going around, and they should be like adult alcoholic bozos. Smoking blunts and just giving kids a hard time.
Yeah, like a bad Santa character.
Right. You know what I mean? Yeah, I thought that'd be so funny. So anyway, I got to call him, as a matter of fact, after we get off this call. But I told him, come out to Lala, and at the very least do Kids-a-Palooza and be Bozo at the Kids-a-Palooza
That's so
thing.
Great. That is so cool. Yeah, you know what? I might actually leave this part in the show because it's very funny. If you don't mind, I'm going to keep that in.
No, I don't care. But the only thing is, if we don't end up having him do it, he might get really bummed out hearing this story, and then he didn't get to do it.
Well, maybe this will incentivize him. You got to go full bozo. Sometimes you got to go full bozo. Maybe this will be his incentive.
That's what I'm thinking. I think that would just be. Did you ever see that show that he did with a pro wrestler? He was a pro wrestler. He fought, but this pro wrestler did death matches. And
Yep.
David went out there and seriously tried to fight this guy, and this guy like broke a fluorescent bulb in his neck.
Yep.
And he had to go to the hospital. Something about that, like, he's always going to be a giant in my eyes from that moment on. Like, anybody that would go to that extreme for a wild documentary, he's got a lifelong pass at Lollapalooza.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool.
You should get the key to the city too.
I think so, or at least the key to the ring. You know, we should set up a match for him.
We should.
And he should be Bozo.
Brian
Bozo.
Only fighting a real wrestler. Bozo.
We bring in Floyd.
I think I've got it. I think I've got it, man.
That's a main stage. That's main stage stuff. Perry, thank you again so much. It was an honor. Thank you for listening to the whole AM Rob's Brands.
I'm Laura Levine.